Alright guys, so we're checking out a new model from Turbo Racing, another 1/76 scale RC car truck. This is the C81 monster mini truck, and just like their previous generation, it has a lot of the same features with some small differences, and I'll of course go over all those in this video. Super cool looking, cute looking little monster mini truck, but let's go over what's new in this version here. So let's go over the box real quick. Yeah, 1/76 scale. This is the C81. Bigger 75 milliamp hour battery in this one. I think the previous generation had the smaller 40 milliamp hour battery. So I think they're advertising a 30-minute runtime on this one. Yeah, so over here on the features, 30-minute runtime, 75 milliamp hour battery. So in addition to the trigger, of course, or the controller, you get these ramps now instead of a additional body chassis. So you get a shorter ramp and a taller ramp, so you get two of each. So those are kind of fun for doing jumps, as you saw. I probably showed you some clips at the beginning of the video. So comparing this to the C73, the previous sort of race car model, you can see here how they're different. Obviously the bigger wheels, different chassis of course, upgraded battery. This, I think because of the bigger wheels, and I think this has a different motor in it, this is a lot faster. So I did some little side-by-side races with the C73 top speed, full throttle, and the new C81 wins hands down every time, even though it is a heavier and bigger, but it has the bigger wheels, and I think it has a bigger motor in here as well. And then these little tiny wheels really need a very smooth flat surface to run on. You do get a little bit of a suspension here on the C81 on the front wheels. I mean, it's it's a little bit of movement up and down, whereas the rear wheels are stiff. There's nothing there. This is where the motor is. It's a rear wheel drive. There's no torque on the front wheels. Do note that this little pin here can slide off of this the steering mechanism in a crash, so it's not that hard to pop back on, but you do have to bend it a little bit to pop that pin back on right there. Otherwise the wheel will be crooked. And then if you just compare the wheel size here, you can see obviously much larger. The chassis comes off the same way. You just hold the front down and pop off the rear like so. Just kind of hold this little bumper here in the back. And then underneath here, you have a wire that goes to this plug. That's to power the LEDs. You have some rear red LEDs and some white front LEDs. I'll show you how those work here in a minute. And then just to pop the chassis back on, you have to lock in this little latch here in the front. Make sure that's down, and then it'll just snap into place. USB-C for charging just like before. You have your on-off switch here as well. Let's go ahead and pop that on. And we see our lights here flashing, and it's waiting for a bind. Yeah. You get your white lights here in the front. Go ahead and turn on the controller. And the red lights are solid now. And now we can go ahead and operate the car. It's the same trigger as before. Pull for forward and push away for reverse. The braking function is different on this one versus the previous generation. So this kind of works as a normal, like most RC controllers. If you push forward, the wheels will immediately go into reverse, whereas on the previous generation, when you pushed forward, it would actually brake, and then you'd have to push forward again to actually trigger the reverse function, and that triggered the brake light on that generation. I'll link that video in the description if you want to watch that video for a full explanation. I'm not going to go over that whole thing in this video, but that brake function obviously doesn't exist on this one. There's no rear brake lights. You just have the lights on top and in the front, and those are controlled by the channel 3 and 4 buttons here on the controller. Channel 3 button turns the front lights on and off. So you can see there, on and off. And then the rear red button, or rear red lights, are controlled by the channel 4 button. So off, slide it back. Middle position is on. I think forward, okay, that the forward actually causes the front lights to blink. It just blinks twice. So those are some of the new functions of the lights on this version. So of course, just like on the previous versions, you have full proportional steering. So you can see here, probably better show it this way. So you have full proportional steering, and it's pretty precise. And you have also, you know, your steering trims and throttle trims as well. Although I wish the steering trim was a little bit more precise. It's very sensitive in the middle, and then on the outer edges, it doesn't really do much. So getting this to, especially at super high speeds, getting it to go straight is a little bit challenging, even with the trim. And of course, you have your rates dials here as well if you want to dial back the speed. You have throttle limits on this switch here. So you have 20, 50, and 100%, just like on the previous generation. I'll show you some clips here of what the speed looks like between the 3 different speeds. If you're doing it on a small, short indoor track, you probably want to go down all the way down to 20% because this thing is really fast. And 50%, maybe a little large area, and then 100% like outdoors, bigger tracks, bigger areas. This thing is a beast. It's really fast. So keep that in mind if you're on the top speed. If you're on the top speed and if you reduce your throttle rate too low, I think it's below about half, it doesn't do anything. So just keep that at full at 10. Then if you want to reverse the way your steering works, maybe if you're left-handed or hold the controller a different way, you can reverse that with this switch here. So as with the previous generation, the controller is pretty much the same. They have this orange trim now here instead of the silver, and I believe it's almost exactly the same in terms of the buttons, and obviously the way I explained before, the brake light works differently. You can break it down as well. You just pop this little lever up, and you can break this down into 2 pieces for transportation, and also just make it a little more compact. And of course, the batteries are inside here, and you just turn this little knob here to unlock it, and then the AAA batteries are inside here. And you can actually interchange this with the other controllers if you want. So if you have multiple models, you don't have to swap the batteries out, just swap out this little battery holder. They'll pop into the other controller and they'll work just fine. I think, in fact, I pulled this one from that other controller and just slid this in here. And then you just have to lock it. And it's got the same little slide here for the USB-C charging, but as you can see here, it's not long enough. And because the wheels are so much bigger in this model, it doesn't actually stick on here for charging. This isn't something actually I use on the other models anyway. Other ones will work, but on this one it doesn't seem to be long enough. Anyway, I think this would be, kind of cool to have a bunch of these and race these around, because I think these are pretty fast, and you can, actually race these on more or less smooth surfaces, like a street or a sidewalk. Obviously, no off-roading or anything like that, because it's not really meant for that kind of use. But you could use it a little bit, in more areas than just like the older cars with the very small tires. You're a little bit limited on what kind of surfaces you can actually run these on. But because it's so much faster, you're gonna have to use this on much larger tracks. I personally like the jump ramps quite a bit, and actually, I know some of you guys are probably going to be into like custom, off-roading type of stuff. You could probably create some pretty interesting stuff on this scale for doing some like miniature off-roading. It'll be interesting to see what kind of things people will come up for this particular model, because I think it's definitely an upgrade over the previous generations. Like, I'm almost kind of wondering what the next model is going to look like, because they just keep making it a little bit more interesting, a little bit more features. Something like, I don't know. Let me know what you guys think in the comments they should do for the next iteration or next version of this. I'm really curious to see what you guys think would be an interesting concept for the next one, because I like these little tiny ones, a little small scale. You know, they're kind of fun for, you know, on like tabletop type racing. But now we're getting to the point where this is so fast for tabletop type stuff. I think pretty much these little jump ramps are just about it. Or you can, you know, go down to your lowest throttle settings on here and then do like, you know, like little like miniature rock crawling or something like that would be kind of cool on this one. Anyway, let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Talk to you guys in the next one.